Welcome to the Being Human podcast, raising awareness of human beings through conscious questions about being human.
Hello, I'm Frank Emanuel, and welcome to Being Human. Today's topic is on fear and love. And joining me today are
Margie
and
Gonzalo.
And I welcome you guys. Thank you for talking on this.
Thank you.
Kind of tying into the last podcast on expanding your mind. A few weeks ago, I was offered to go to a meeting by some friends, and it was the second time they asked me to go with them, and I think out of my limited knowledge of what the meeting was and maybe slight judgment, I decided not to go the first time, but this time I tried to expand my mind and just do something that was out of my norm. Because that's kind of how you learn, is by doing something completely different.
Right.
So that's how I came across you two.
Okay.
And it was a pleasant meeting, and I thought you both had a lot to share. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
That's kind of how I feel about this meeting. I'm doing something I normally wouldn't do.
Right. That's great. I guess to start, we have to talk about fear a bit and what fear kind of means to us. Anyone have any opinions on that?
I'm sure I do if I could just think of them.
So what is fear?
I can start. To me, it's any absence of peace. Anytime where it doesn't have to be big or small, or anytime we're just a little bit irritated, either stuck in traffic or stuck in a grocery line, or even had a big blow-up argument in something very intensely personal, financial problems, any big to small, it's all the same lack of peace, and it all equates to fear. Whether we see something on TV, like what's going on with the violence that's getting people all worked up, or whether we get a bill and we can't pay it and we're facing foreclosure, it's all fear if we succumb to losing our peace over it. So I think as a general definition is just any loss of peace, whether great or small.
I would agree with that for sure.
Some people would say, well, I'm angry about something. That doesn't mean I'm fearful. What do you think about that?
I think anger is a form of fear. Either you're in peace or you're in fear. I think it's basically only two basic fundamental emotions, and that's fear and peace, or you might say fear or love. But even if you're angry, you're still fearful that if you don't react, you're going to be hurt in some way, So when you're angry, you tend to go into reactive mode, and on a lot of different levels, and then you are not peaceful. You lose your peace, and you feel like you have to do something to be able to protect yourself. So I think it's generally all the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think anger is an expression of fear.
Yeah.
How fear is expressed through anger, because when we're angry, we're always defending ourselves as we think we are. We're defending this false identity of ourselves. That's where the fear comes from, because we have this false identity, and we want to hold on to it. And so when something threatens that, then we become fearful. And anger is our way of striking back at what makes us afraid.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, and it just all boils down to feeling like we're going to lose a part of ourselves, or some, like Margie said, some false identity which we've constructed here, that is somehow going to be torn down or torn away or altered in some way. We're going to lose our identity, quote unquote, and so we go into reactive mode. And just earlier this week, I I hit the wrong button on the PayPal. It came from the wrong account, like
Yes.
$800 payment to a contractor from the wrong account that didn't have enough money in it.
Right.
And we refunded it within minutes, but PayPal still runs the transaction, whether you've refunded it or not.
Mhm.
So I thought it was all good, and then I look at my account a couple of days ago, and I'm overdrawn by like $900 because they kept charging me overdraft fees, and I freaked out. I was angry with all the overdraft, and I was fearful at the same time. So
Right.
I was fearful, whatever, knock on my credit, whatever. So I had to remind myself of who I am, that I'm not this person tied to these bank accounts. That's just something I'm doing, hanging out in this role while I'm here temporarily, but that's not who I am.
Right. And in that moment,
Yeah.
you could have still been at peace, right? Because nothing was directly like attacking you. You weren't
Right.
getting,
Right,
you weren't
yeah.
getting hit or anything like that.
Yeah, there was no overt attack on me, really, and
It's all kind of an illusion in the
it was,
mind
yeah, and so
of sorts.
yeah, and so I just didn't do any. I reminded myself, the course says we need do nothing. I didn't do anything. I just kind of sat and let it sit for a day or so before I decided, if something came to me on how to proceed, and I got it squared away. But again, it's realizing that nothing can be done to us. We have to do to ourselves if we're gonna be attacked, and that's coming from within, not from the outside. So
Personal experiences are always good. They
yeah.
online the definition of fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. And the verb is to be afraid of someone or something as likely to be dangerous, painful, or threatening. But I mean, why do you think fear exists in us? Why do we create it if it's not really a natural state? What are your thoughts?
Well, because we have this false. I'll go back to that, because we have this false identity to protect, and we feel alone. That's a big part of it. We feel alone. We feel like we might be just one person, or
Right.
we might be a block of people, but we have to defend ourselves against everyone else, because we feel like there's something outside of us that is out to get us or is alien to us. We feel alone and we feel separated.
Yeah.
There's
So
this-
it comes from a sense of fear, comes from a sense of separation. A sense of
Separateness, yeah.
separation from God and from each other. I hope I'm allowed to mention God.
You can mention whatever you like.
But that's where fear comes from.
So by identifying with things, because every thing is different, whether it's a role or an object, or essentially you're making yourself more and more separated, in a sense, more different than others.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then what's the answer then? Just to recognize our sameness in everyone.
That's a big part of it. Yes.
And
Yes.
to look for that.
To recognize that we're all the same. We're all perfect. We're all loving. We're all made by the same Creator.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, yes, exactly. That's how we.
It's just to play
Feel
devil's
it.
advocate. I mean, someone might say, well, I look completely different than that person, and I was raised with better values than that person, or that person's just so mean, and I'm nothing like them. What would you say to that?
I think in reality, I think we're completely like them. The form of how we develop in the form here, the stuff that we learn is very deceptive, because it makes us seem that, well, I'm so, we can very easily fall into the ego's trap of thinking, well, I'm so law-abiding and I'm such a good person, and I treat people good, and I, quote, try to do the right thing, whatever that means. But we've all done what the other guy who we say we don't want to be one with and don't want to join, the criminal, the drug dealer, the rapist, the killer, the terrorist. We've all had thoughts like they've had thoughts.
Right.
If we haven't committed whatever act, we've all had the same thoughts. So does it make us?
It might just be a blink in your brain, like something.
Yeah.
That it just then, oh, what if that happened? Oh, never mind. And then it just passes. But
yeah.
some people,
Yeah. And so
in the beginning we're similar, but
yeah.
something we inherit things from our parents that make us a little unique,
Mm.
and then our conditioning from when we're born, the foods we eat, the environment we're raised in,
Mm.
makes us can make us a little bit more separate, just in our thought processes. But I think there's a point when you can kind of be aware of that and kind of try to let go of all that and just be the human, and not necessarily have all those conditioned patterns and thoughts that even, be them bad or good, and just kind of be neutral. Just let your true inner self just come through, without being so reactive.
Those are all superficial things. They are what we use, the excuses we use to separate ourselves from each other. They are all the excuses we use because naturally, if we all went out to dinner, we're all going to order different things to eat. But that makes no difference at all to what we are, to who we are. It's, we're still all, for this time, we'll say human. We're all human. We all bleed if we cut ourselves. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. We all came from the same place. And we all are made of the same stuff, which love created us. So our essential nature is love. Unfortunately, we have attempted to block that out, deny it. That's where the fear comes in.
Yeah, I found it challenging because I have two sons to teach compassion at times. you can kind of just be a compassionate person and let them learn from you. But if someone just isn't very compassionate, what's the best way to teach them? Just through example?
Yeah, I think that's always the best way to teach, whether with a child or with adults. We get back out of this experience what we put into it, and it takes a brave soul to realize that the stuff that we see here in life, in the form, the actions that we see out there that we buy fear into. It takes a brave soul to realize that stuff can't do anything to our true nature. The violence, the financial problems, the stress, that doesn't affect at a core who we are, which, like Margie said, we're love. We're created in God's love. And if, we have, a large segment of our population is either religious or maybe spiritually oriented, and we say we believe in this concept of an almighty God for good, but then we freak out when we have problems or conflicts or somebody stole something from us, so we have a perceived attack or violence, or the perceived violence. We then, this almighty God for good, which we say we believe in, all of a sudden doesn't become so almighty anymore. And all of a sudden it becomes kind of small when a financial problem is bigger than our God. When a perceived terrorist is bigger than our God. When a perceived financial problem or a relationship problem where we want to feel validated by the other person is somehow bigger than our almighty God of the universe. So I invite people to question their idea of what they feel their higher power is, and how high is the power, how universal is the power, because it was really almighty good, a God for good, which we say we believe in, many of us, then we really wouldn't need to be afraid of anything. We wouldn't lack anything. We wouldn't yearn or feel we have to validate ourselves in anything out there or protect ourselves from anything out there. If it's truly a God of good and of almightiness and ruler of the universe, if you will. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
We have a choice.
And everything is just perfect the way it is, right?
Yeah. Yes. Not in the form, though.
No. But yeah, I was talking about the talking about my kids and trying to have compassion, because this the separateness definitely lacks compassion, and it's just trying to. I can do it myself. If I see someone that might have upset the old person that I thought I was, to kind of see them as just human, and realize that they might be acting that way because of maybe they had a childhood or something that really created all this stress and strain on them. Not to say that they can't release that, but just to accept people for being where they are in life.
Yeah.
And not trying to change, because that's what the fear or anger, that kind of thing would be resistance. You want the other person to change their way of being.
Other than children,
Yes.
I think we're amiss if we try to teach compassion to anyone other than ourselves. With children it's different, because we're in charge of their growth. So I think the way to teach compassion to children is to be compassionate with them, and through example. But once people get to adults, then it's not in our best interest or their best interest to try to change them at all. We only have to look at ourselves and say, am I as compassionate as I would like to be? Can I be more compassionate? That anytime we try to change something else, we're seeing something out there is wrong, and that just adds to the to the belief in separation. So that's my thought.
You just have to kind of be the light.
Right, exactly.
And if people are attracted to that light,
exactly,
they might question you or ask you, and then you have free reign to
that's how
to
the
speak your
world's
mind.
going to be changed. The world's going to be changed by us changing ourselves, and other people saying, "Hey, I like that," or whatever, and following.
But not trying to take the reins of someone else and change them without their consent.
That's a big deal. I was having that exact same conversation with a longtime buddy of mine, and about where I am in my journey after 8 years of studying the Course in Miracles. I'm really vigilant about accepting other people's differences, if you will, differences in the form in terms of the path that they choose to take, whatever it is. That's not to say that I agree with it. It has nothing to do with me agreeing with anything in the form. I don't, in the form, I don't agree with violent, unkind acts, and in that, it's not to say that we agree with anything people are doing. It's saying accepting it. That's a difference, and I think if we can be at peace with accepting it, and as Marge said, to realize that we change the world. Maybe not individual people, but we change the world and what we see by virtue of changing ourselves and choosing a different way to look at the world. That's ultimately where, over time, we initiate a more loving experience here. But again, as Margie was saying, it takes a brave person to step away and say, well, I'm responsible for what I'm seeing. I'm responsible for the upset that I'm having because I'm ticked off at somebody or what somebody did to me, or the person out there that might be attacking me, the criminal, the terrorist, or whatever. the politician. It takes a brave soul to say, I'm the one that's creating that upset by creating this good versus bad, black versus white, very either or mentality that we've developed here. We weren't created with that.
It's not easy.
We weren't learned that.
It's not easy to stay in that conscious state all the time because there's things that kind of pull you back,
Yeah. And that's why we practice.
Right.
That's why we practice, yeah. And we slowly, gracefully ask for help in letting that go. And once you get a taste of that experience of dropping the judgment and dropping the condemnation on people and dropping they're wrong, and then assuming you're right and patting yourself on the back, and then what you see and what you feel will be so much nicer. And after several of those experiences, you don't ever want to go back to the worldly value system of judgment.
Right.
Because it just feels so much better. And as you said, people latch on to that and start to get a glimpse of what it is to change themselves.
I've had those experiences going both ways,
Mm-hmm.
At times when you feel like extremely at peace for long periods of time, just in the right state of mind of accepting and giving love and releasing judgment and just accepting that everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen. But then there's times when it goes back, something might happen that, and I don't know. Sometimes I think of it as like a pendulum, swinging back and forth between an unconscious or conscious, and then I don't know if maybe just the middle road is the only way to kind of stop the pendulum from swinging, not too far in any direction. Just find that middle space where you can just sit, like mentally.
If you have a high, there's definitely going to be a low.
Right.
Yes, peace, I think, is the middle road.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so with the Course, it says the most wonderful thing is you can always choose again, and you don't have to wait till tomorrow or next week. Right now, all you have to do is say, I must have chosen wrongly, and I can change what I've chosen, so I can choose again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's that simple.
Probably the biggest, most observable place I can see is in how much my parenting has changed the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So from the parenting perspective, it's very observable, to watch my actions, because as a parent you have a reaction, and then you sit back and think about it, whether or not it was the right thing to do. And I definitely noticed the pattern with having reactions that I it didn't feel good to me, and then realizing that I wanted to change them, but then still having those same reactions, and just constantly being conscious of it, and then in time, seeing a complete change towards my reaction, and then seeing it change in them as well. It's quite an experience. The trying to release the conditioning part, even though you can say you can change it in this moment, but conditioning can be very strong. So I don't know if there's other things that we believe kind of incite fear to continuously exist, do you feel like the media or other things in the world kind of push that, or is it the way our society is built?
I think that they act out our fears. Everything outside of us acts out our fear. It's not because we all have a tendency to want to blame it on something or someone, but we're responsible for it all.
We're all connected.
We're all responsible. Our human consciousness has accepted the belief in separation, and all the what we call evil in the world is that belief in separation being acted out.
Mhm.
Because in reality, there is no evil. There's good and there's illusion. So everything that falls under the category of evil is just illusion. It's something we have made up.
Right.
We need somebody out there to blame it on. So, we can't accept that we have, because we feel like we've sinned against God, which we haven't done really. It's impossible. But that's what we feel like. So we can't live with that. So we have to say, well, there's somebody out there who's done this to me, and that's why I am the way I am, or why I acted the way I did because of such and such. It's never the case, and it's never helpful. It's not helpful for us to blame anyone else, because we can't get better if we're blaming anyone else. The only one we can change is ourselves.
Right. So by people like blaming the media, essentially,
it's counterproductive.
because all the media is doing is feeding people
If people didn't listen to it, the media wouldn't do it.
Right.
So it's our consciousness that's making them do that.
And at the heart of the media,
Right.
it might just be one man doing his job. Making a living for his family. I'm trying to relate to individuals as far as being separated.
It all comes down to a lot of it comes down to this belief in lack, because the media, like everything else, like most everything else in this world, is driven by how much you have. And so, they're trying to make money. And it's all about making money. Because we believe there's not enough to go around. And it's our belief in lack that comes from fear, which comes from this belief in separation. It all just comes from it's all part and parcel of the same thing.
And the belief that the money will fulfill you, it will complete you.
Exactly. So, if we didn't have to, if we would give up our belief in lack, then we wouldn't have to play all these silly games with each other. And instead of tearing each other apart, we could see how we could make life better for everyone. Which.
Right.
Yeah. The Course says, like Marjorie said, that we feel at a core, and we're not even conscious that we've sinned against God, and so therefore we're so lowly in our pitifulness that we don't deserve to be loved and to feel whole and complete. So what we do, unbeknownst to ourselves,
subconsciously, and a lot of people might feel that way subconsciously.
Yeah, and so we just blame, and we keep chasing stuff out there to make us feel good, and other people to make us, and we just keep blaming the media, which we created, which wouldn't be there if they didn't have people to watch it. And then we just blame politicians who they came from us, and then we just blame companies or other people, and we just keep blaming. That way we don't actually have to make changes ourselves. That's just easy. So we keep the game going that
Exactly.
way. And it's the way it's set up here to just keep us chasing, keep us searching, keep us wanting, keep us desperate, keep us needy, because we don't want to believe that we're somehow good. There's a lot of us that were taught that we're evil from the time we smacked here on earth, that we were bad, we were dirty, we were evil. And even though a lot of us aren't overtly religious, that belief is still there, that we're in some way less than worthy, we're not good enough. So we create this system to reflect that by seeking outwardly for our good and blaming everything else to keep us running. So
Constantly seeking your whole life.
yeah, it's a hell of a game.
But I think when you can step back and recognize some of that pattern in yourself, it's like a big moment. And then also realizing that you are complete, in this moment right now. There's nothing you need to do to make yourself more authentic. You are already you. You don't need to search for anything, And just be.
That's a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're not taught here that we're whole and that we're good and that we're loved. We're not taught that we have to seek and we have to get straight A's. And
even if it's not directly taught, if it's just kind of subconsciously perceive through others' actions.
Yes, I mean it's a value system, if you will, whether it's overt or subvert. I mean, I've been a public school teacher for 19 years, and don't I know from the education system, which we've set up, it's very achievement driven, that your value comes from those grades and what you do and the schools you get into. And so, I mean, it's completely backwards to the world system to realize that we don't have to do anything to be good, to be whole. We just have to be. We were created in God's goodness. And there's so many of us out there that believe at a core that we're bad. You know, I mean, I tell my students, you know, when they mess up on their work, I tell them, you're innocent. Just do it again. You're innocent. And then they'll repeat this like, But it's kind of a joke in that context. But, you know, I on some level, I communicate to them that they're good and they're whole. And no matter what they do in school, that wholeness is not going to be changed at all. So, you know, I think the big thing, like you said, Frank, is to realize that just by realizing that we're good right now, we're whole, we're loved, we're taken care of right now. We don't have to do anything. And if we decide to do anything, if we decide to go to school and get good grades and get a job and get in a relationship, if we decide to do that, then it just becomes stuff that we do. And if we can do that lovingly, it just plays out the way it plays out, from a good place, from a place of not from a place of fear or lack, thinking that we do these things to be validated. And that realization of our wholeness right here, right now, is where we have to start to change the world out here. But that starts up here.
Yep, up in the mind.
Uh-huh.
Good. Well, I guess we should, since you brought up love, we should probably talk about that a bit, you know. And it's not like are they polarizing forces, do you think? Love and fear, or are they completely different?
Well, love is everything. Fear is an illusion. So actually, it's love and nothing.
Right.
That's the way the Course would describe it.
Just
love and nothing.
That we are love,
Right.
and then fear is what we create.
Yes, it's our mistaken perspective, our mistaken way of looking at things, because in reality, nothing is wrong. It's just that we never see reality. We see through our misguided filters.
And that's quite comforting, I think, to know that you are love.
Yes.
All you have to do is not cover it up with these thoughts.
Yes, that's why the
It
Course
just-
is a course in unlearning.
Right.
And it says love cannot be defined, but it's just undoing everything that blocks love, to know love.
It's already there within you.
Right. Because love is what we are. And love is all there is. In reality, that's all there is. That's the stuff the universe is made of, is love. Except that we get mixed up because in our vernacular, we use the word love to mean a lot of different things that are not real love.
How do you
For instance,
define love then?
We say we love something, and usually it means I want to own that.
Yes.
Or I want power over that.
That's where the
or
word's
I want to have that
meaning
with
is
me.
derived, I think.
You know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think we can define love, but we can describe it. I think we can describe it. I think it's gentle. Love is always gentle. Love does no harm.
It has attractive qualities then? Both,
Not necessarily. I mean, because things that might not look like love are love. So we can't we can't go by the form at all.
Yeah.
For instance, a mother giving a child a smack on the rear when it's important that he remember not to cross the street without looking. I think that's love, irregardless of how we might judge that form.
so love is defined less about what you do, but why.
Why you do it exactly. It's it's all about why we do.
Because the same
Exactly.
action, a mother smacking the butt, could be in fear
Yes,
if it just depends on why they're doing it.
exactly. It's always why you're doing it. Yes.
Right? Love is the why.
I like that. The love is the why. Yeah. Yeah, I do like that.
Well,
Don't you?
The definition online for love is an intense feeling or deep affection, which I guess that just kind of identifies with the love in relationships, right?
Yeah, I mean it's funny that you're using is that the dictionary definition.
Yes.
And it's funny, again, I have these conversations quite often with a buddy of mine who, I've known him for a long time, but we share pretty starkly different outlooks when it comes to this type of stuff. And he also quoted a definition in terms of, we were having spiritual discussions, and God bless Webster, and they have their definitions of stuff, but I think it's extremely limited because if dictionary definitions and the worldly definitions that we use, they're usually based on our intellect and what we can make sense of, quote unquote. But true love, like Margie said, is unlimited. There's no words to really describe the totality of true love. It's just there. It's always on. It's always unaffected. There's nothing that can alter love in any form. Not the terrorist act in Orlando, not 9/11, not the bankruptcy, not any amount of political mess can alter love, not one bit. And that's where words are far too limited to describe how unlimited true love is. A godly love, which we need to all get back to aspire to, is something so great that you have to experience it to know what it is really. And people get caught up in the definitions, and as Marge was saying, in wanting to love something or somebody more than anything else, but that's not love. That's just stuff you're doing. That's play love, if you want to call it that. But at the end of the day, it's stuff that we do here until we learn what true love is. And we can have people in our lives, of course. We gravitate toward people in our lives that really want to wake up. And so we go to the course groups, or we go to whatever groups we go to that feel encourage our awakening and our development. And it's okay, but I'm saying true love, if we're really, really, really serious about waking up, it's an experience we have to have that's unaltered, that cannot be affected by anything that's going on in the world or anything happening to us. So I think it's good to start with a definition because it helps us to get away from making sense of what a concept of love or spirit is.
Yes.
And really maybe aspiring to something, getting back to our nature, which is unlimited and whole.
I tried to define love in a relationship sense once, and just by saying that love is acceptance. I guess that could be true in different senses, but at least in relationships, people get into relationships for different reasons.
Yeah.
But if you're just accepting,
acceptance is a facet of love.
yes,
Just like gentleness is a facet of love.
so it's just a
But-
part of it.
Yeah, but to define love is like trying to define God or truth, because they're all synonymous. God, truth, love, all synonymous, and cannot really be defined.
We try.
The love we define here is our fake love, our love that really is. We use love to help define our false our false identity of ourselves.
Separateness.
Yes. We go around thinking we're all these individuals that we are not. And if anything threatens it, a difference of an opinion. That's why we back our opinions, and we'll fight for our opinions, because that's how we define ourselves. I am this. I am this person. I think this way, and if something shatters that belief, who am I going to be? I won't know who I am. Well, we don't know who we are anyway, because we have made up all this nonsense about who we are that we believe in, so we don't know who we are.
You know, that's the best way to be, is just to say I don't know.
Exactly.
I have
Because
questions
until
but
we
no
get to-
answers.
Yes, exactly. That's the only way we'll learn, is to be open. Because if we already know the answers, we're never going to learn anything new, right?
The good teacher and the good student ask questions, and they ask questions that go beyond the obvious. And if we can learn to be good students of God, the Holy Spirit, Christ, whatever you want to call it, we'll learn to constantly question what we've learned here in this world that's caused us to be upset. And questioning will open the door to us freeing ourselves. But if we can't learn to question things that have caused us our upset, and then we're going to stay stuck here and seemingly going at the pace of the world, which is never really going to find peace here at all, not permanently.
Right, and that goes along with, instead of having firm beliefs, you know, kind of just releasing that and promoting questions and wonder.
Yeah. Because we can't make sense of anything here in the world. And
right.
If we try to define something because it says it in a dictionary or scripture or philosophy or based on value and tradition, if we try to define something and rationalize it, and if we're so stuck in that belief, we're never going to learn and open up to truth. Again, because words, the intellect is far too limited to really know what our unlimited nature is in God. So therefore, I think a very doable practice for us to do is to question what we've learned, and to keep, and that questioning will drive us closer and closer to the truth. But it takes some brave soul to even question that. If we're taught in a way that's very fearful and very self-identified and very separate, where we have to validate ourselves based on our separateness and how special we are, based on all this criteria that we learn, then it takes a brave soul to walk away from there, or at least start to question how's it worked for us.
Even brave has a different kind of meaning, because the braveness is about letting go, not standing up,
not standing up,
fighting, but
point.
letting go,
yeah.
And going into the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing yourself, you know, and just questioning.
Great point. The braveness is in letting go. Yeah.
It's what makes it brave is that it can be scary.
Yeah.
Or unknowing.
Yeah.
But we talked about why we have fear within us. We don't have to create love within us, though, do we? Really, necessarily?
No, we can't create it. It's
'Cause we
already
create the
there.
fear.
That's who we are.
Right. We don't have to create the love.
We have to let it shine through, let it be uncovered, recognize it. We have to recognize it. That's the thing. We have to recognize it, and not only in us, we have to recognize it everywhere. That's how we come to know it, by recognizing it everywhere.
You know, I'll use the brave term again. It takes bravery and a lot of courage to see love in everyone when the world's telling us, hey, they're bad and you're good, and they're evil and we're good. Let's destroy them and then we'll somehow be better off. And then they want to destroy us, and so it starts with realizing that we're good. That in and of itself is a huge term, because again we're taught about our sinning evil nature from the time that we're born. Realizing our goodness in itself is a big deal, but to realize that in everybody, no matter what they do, no matter what they look like, no matter how they treat us, is the key to our salvation. And if we're going to get serious about waking up, we need to ask those questions and at least start to unearth a lot of the stuff that has us stuck here in separation and differences, and not being able to join with our brothers and sisters that seemingly, appearingly, are different from us.
Yes. are there things that we can do to help us? I guess this is hard to put into words. Are there things that we can do to help us accept more love into our lives? Or is it just about removing the fear?
They're the same.
Yeah.
If we remove the fear, then we're letting more love into our lives. But what we can do, how we do that, is by looking for love, recognizing love. In other words, we look for the good in each other. We look for the good in situations. We look for the good all around us, rather than, seeing the cup half full rather than half empty. Is the expression is often used, but that's going to help us. Every time we can, our immediate reaction is to see something as, oh, I'm afraid of that, and then we look a little closer and we see the love in it. That's bringing more love, not only to us, but to everyone,
So
to the situation. It's by changing our perspective on how we look at things.
Yes. Should we then search, for love, or is it important just to see things as they are, or is as they are just love, and you're just not seeing that if you see something that's off-putting?
We're looking at when we look at the form, we're always going to find fault. If we're looking at the form, we always have to look for the meaning. It's like getting back to where we talked about before. What is it for? It's always about what is it for. It's never about what form it takes.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about what is it for. And the thing is, if we're looking for love outside of ourselves, we're never going to find it. The only, because it's within us, but it's within all of us. But we begin to recognize that it's everywhere.
Right.
We can't be a part of it. It's everywhere. It's all around us. It's, it's in the sky. It's in each other's eyes. It's in the cat. It's in the pillows. It's everywhere.
Sometimes people say, "Oh, you're an optimistic person, or you're a pessimistic person," and I used to always tell people, "I'm just a realist. I just try to look at things the way they are." But now I see that that's kind of a form of pessimism too, because then you're not realizing that everything's love.
We make an opinion of something.
Right.
We're going back to making our false identity, because we're saying, my opinion is the right opinion. I know what is happening here, and I know what should happen or what shouldn't have happened, blah, blah, blah. And someone comes along and says, well, your opinion's wrong. And then we have to question ourselves, or the other person. We say, well, you're full of it, because you're the one that's wrong. So all that stuff just keeps us from finding out who we really are, to finding out the truth about who we are. Because if we really want to know love, we won't even bother to make an opinion about anything. We would just recognize that everything comes from good. Everything is good. Everything is love. We would just accept. So it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
It is a different ballgame. If we're still in an analytical or judgmental mode, we're never going to find peace. And peace and love are the same as well. They go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So as long as we are
Right. So it's
have
not.
a chalkboard and saying, well, putting things in this column and this column.
So it's not about saying I'm optimistic and that person's pessimistic. 'Cause then
Right.
that's separation again.
That's
It's
separation
just about
again. Right.
just be
Just being.
love.
Yeah, just be love and recognize it everywhere. Yes. Of course, that's a beautiful thing. It says the only thing we owe our brothers is a full appreciation. That's all. So it's our function here to appreciate, to recognize love everywhere. And we don't have to do that in words. We don't have to go out and say, oh, well, and tell people, oh, you're love. You're so, whatever. We can just be normal people, but we recognize that normal people are not really normal people. The normal people are really God manifesting himself as. Everything is God manifesting himself as.
It's just, it's a great shift in perspective, or trying to open up to as big a perspective as we can possibly take in,
When we lay down our arms, there aren't going to be any wars.
Yeah.
So enough of us have to be willing to lay down our arms for where that's going to happen. We have to do that on an individual basis. And as we do that, and enough of us do that, then there will be no more wars. But it's the only way there will be no more wars is when we stop fighting.
Do you think that's possible?
If we do it one person at a time, individual, if we don't try to change anybody else, yes, definitely possible. In fact, it's probable. It's probable. But we have to all come to the realization, but we will eventually.
I hope so. I just think that there's for a long time it'll take a while for someone to say, oh, but what if there's just one person that it's always there's always that thought. Oh, but what if?
That's our mind, our mind playing tricks again.
Right.
And what
Right.
What if it always wants to go? What if?
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's nothing really going on out here anyway. This is all stuff we've made up. It's not true. Nothing we see out here is true. It's a picture of our own consciousness. That's what we're seeing. As our consciousness changes, the picture will change. And what it will change to, as far as how it will look, I have no idea. But it can only get more beautiful if we let more beauty, are willing to experience more beauty.
Yes.
Yeah, so true. Marge mentioned the course teaches us about full appreciation for our brothers and sisters, and that goes beyond the form. That's always just full appreciation, unconditional appreciation, no matter what. That includes the guy, the shooter, the terrorist, the criminal, the politician we don't like, the neighbor, the spouse, everybody. Full appreciation.
Right.
Nothing to do with the form at all. Nothing to do with agreeing with their actions. This is where we get confused. We think that by appreciating our brothers and sisters, that we're agreeing with what they're doing in the form, that we're somehow endorsing them being unkind and violent. No. That's not at all what the Course, and that's not what we're saying. We're saying that full appreciation fixes all the other stuff that we say we're having a problem with. By appreciating them, we're looking at them for who they really are, not for what the stuff that they do, but for which in an essence, to me, that fixes the problem, the real problem, which is our separation, feeling like we're separate. And you were talking about what we can do on a practical level, in addition to the full appreciation part, that's deep. That's really deep to be able to get there. But I think on the most simplest thing that might be easier is just to start to question our value systems that we've learned, and just questioning, my value system that I've learned about relationships, about career, about my aspirations in life, where these value systems that I've learned, am I really, really happy with them? More specifically, am I really at peace with them? And if we can look ourselves in the mirror and answer that, then we might be able to start to at least unearth a lot of the belief systems that have kept us here and kept us feeling separate and needy and seeking approval in the world, and not where we can really get it, which is from the inside. So I would say to start to question our value systems
and let them kind of fall down on their own.
Yes.
If you find that to happen.
Right. I think that might be more doable to start. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty much it. I want to thank you guys for coming today. Do you have any final words you want to say about fear or love or we kind of examined it pretty deeply. I think that I mean, the love is there. We just have to, like you said, release the fear and have a shift in perspective and promote questioning everything without necessarily needing answers. I mean, and that's a hard thing for some people like to grab onto too, because I have a friend who likes to have answers, but he's learning more and more to question things without needing that, you know. And I think it's given him more peace, because I mean, answers don't necessarily fix things, you know.
We get the answers. The thing is, we usually don't want the answers we get, so we say we didn't get the answer.
That's great. Well, I want to thank both of you for speaking on this today, and we will go forth into the world and shine our rays of love as much as we can.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for talking.
Thank you for listening. For more Being Human, go to facebook.com/beinghumanpodcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or find all our recordings on SoundCloud.